You're listening to international investment advisor Doug Goldstein on the Goldstein on Gelt show, the financial show where we'll talk about how you can make the most of your money. With all the confusing financial chatter bombarding you each and every day, Goldstein on Gelt will give you the practical information you want and need about living a financially stable life. Here's your host, money maven Doug Goldstein.
Okay, we are back. We are talking with Leviathan Energy, which develops technologies to produce clean energy solutions. My guest today is the founder and chief executive officer of Leviathan Energy, Dr. Daniel Farb, who has a great deal of management experience as a founder of one of the first e-learning companies. He's written hundreds of books and CDs on management, healthcare, and pharmaceuticals, many of which are purchased by Fortune 500 companies. Having written over 50 patents, Dr. Farb also has the proven rare ability to combine his expertise in science, intellectual property, and writing in providing Leviathan with a solid patent portfolio. Anyway, Dr. Farb, we're very glad to have you today on the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be on the show.
Okay. There are many alternative energy sources. Why wind?
So let me answer that in two ways. Why wind in general, and why wind in Israel, which some of your listeners may be interested in. So renewable energies are able to produce more cost effectiveness depending upon their basic class. Anything involving water is usually the most efficient because water is very dense and it carries a lot of weight with it. Second is wind. Third is solar. So the nice thing about wind is that in addition to it being a fairly efficient type of renewable energy, it also is common throughout the world. Now, in Israel, people don't usually think of Israel as a windy country, but there are many areas of excellent wind in Israel.
But we also have a lot of water around here, too, is that?
I don't think we have so much water in Israel.
Like the project people had spoken about many years ago was the Dead Med or Med Dead project.
Well, I'm all in favor of it, but I don't know anything about the politics and what went into that. So I'm not the person to ask, but we'd be glad if it went through, and we'd be glad to participate in it with one of our other products, a hydroelectric turbine.
Oh, wow. I know that wind farms are often located in remote locations. If that's the case, how can you manage the efficient transmission of the energy from far, far away to where it's most needed?
Well, that is a problem. It obviously can be addressed by making the right kind of infrastructure. And we are involved in products for large wind farms as well. But I think the thing that would be of great interest here is the fact that we're making smaller wind turbines that are specially made so they're better than any other type for rooftops. And therefore, there's no problem with hooking them into the grid. And you don't have to build up a separate infrastructure in order to support them. And you can provide energy near where you want it.
I see. So what makes your products actually different from other wind energy producers?
It's mostly, from a scientific point of view, it's the aerodynamics. And the aerodynamics lead to a turbine that is lower in noise, lower in vibration, lower in turbulence, so that it can be used on a building near people and so forth, with the additional factor that our newest version that's going to be coming into production soon is beautiful, and people enjoy looking at it.
Oh, wow. So it's artwork and energy efficiency.
Exactly. It's form and function combined. It looks like a rotating tulip. And we're starting to take orders for that now for making small wind farms. And
is this only in Israel, or are you selling them overseas as well?
Well, we're selling overseas as well, but we're concentrating on Israel right now because right now there's a fantastic opportunity in Israel. First of all, we've been the only and the first company that is authorized to hook into the national grid. And last week we made a big ceremony about that with the Minister of Infrastructure and then later the Minister of the Environment. Came to Sde Boker to inaugurate this. So we have the experience, we're able to do it. The opportunity beyond that is that there's a special tariff, feed-in tariff, for small wind energy. And Israel has one of the best of these in the world, which means that if you put together a small wind farm made out of small wind turbines, you can make approximately in the right location, more or less 20% per year return on investment. It sure beats what most banks are giving, doesn't it?
How does that work?
Well, it works because the electric company will pay up to around 1.6 shekels per kilowatt hour of electricity produced from a small wind turbine, and they give a 20-year contract for that. It's a government regulation. So as a result of this, and you can do the figures, and we have ways of making calculations based upon the wind in different areas, is that there are areas in Israel we can get 20% per year return on investment. And a little bit higher, actually, if you finance it. It can come closer to 30%. Yeah, you need to think of it, because most people just think sun, sun, sun. But there are many areas of Israel that have excellent wind. And this subsidy, just like the solar subsidy that used to exist and has now been decreased, this one is on the way up. Small wind is on the way up around the world, and it's a great chance to invest.
I see. We are talking with the founder and chief executive officer of Leviathan Energy, Dr. Daniel Farb. Leviathan Energy develops technologies to produce clean energy solutions. And Dr. Farb has been explaining to us about why it might be a good investment for people to set up wind farms. As a financial advisor, my day job, now when I'm not on the radio, is I am a financial planner and investment advisor at Profile Investment Services. And we do a lot of portfolio planning and asset allocation work for people. We help them to invest their money in various places. Normally they're more traditional, stocks and bonds, mutual funds, that type of thing. And one of the big discussion points that I have with clients regularly is about the risks involved in each of those different categories. So you've described on one hand why it sounds very good, and everyone would of course like to make 20 or 30%. What are the risks that you could imagine someone having in making such an investment in a wind farm?
Well, certainly if there's a nuclear war, but I don't think any of your investments would do well in those circumstances, even your real estate. So aside from that, the risks are kind of minor, because when you're working with government-sponsored programs, generally governments do what they're contracted to do, or what they force electric utilities and other utilities to do. So that really does make it relatively safe. And a lot of people have made a lot of money around the world by taking advantage of the different renewable energy subsidies that are current in different ways and different forms throughout the world right now.
So the benefit is based on the subsidy, not on the actual internal economics of it?
Well, if there were internal economics instead of, let's say, a 20% return on investment, you'd probably have more like a 5 to 10% return on investment, which is still better than what you get at a bank. Now, the risks are kind of minor, which are that maybe the wind won't blow as well for a couple of years, or that you'll have some unexpected maintenance problems and so forth. But in general, the experience on a larger scale with the large wind farms over the last 20, 30 years has shown that they're very reliable investments.
When you say a large wind farm, what does that mean? What does large refer to?
Well, a large wind farm, I'd say the average size of most wind farms now is about 100 large turbines. And a large turbine has a diameter of the blades that is maybe the size of a football field.
Oh, that's huge. And are most of them offshore, or are they on land?
There are an increasing number that are going offshore, but the vast majority, over 90%, are on land.
And which countries have found the most success with wind energy?
Well, a lot. In Denmark, which is a small country, but 20% of the electricity in their national grid comes from these turbines.
Wow.
The biggest markets right now are the United States and China. Someday you're going to see the entire middle of the United States filled with huge wind turbines all across the cornfields there.
And will they be Leviathan wind turbines?
I don't think so. We're not making the big ones, but we have an invention that improves the power output of the large wind turbines by about 20 to 40%. That's a separate company that we have, a separate kind of investment. What we're doing with the small wind turbine is we're applying the same laws of aerodynamics on a smaller scale, to this small turbine so that it's more efficient than equivalent types of turbines on the market.
I see. Listen, Dr. Farb, we are just about out of time. We are talking again to Leviathan Energy founder and CEO, Dr. Daniel Farb. Leviathan Energy deals in many areas we now understand of clean energy. Just tell us in the end, how can people learn more?
They can go to our website, which is www.leviathanenergy.com. I better spell it because not everybody knows how to spell Leviathan. Leviathanenergy.com. And if they're interested in purchasing one, there are some brochures that you can download. If you're interested in the wind tulip, which is our small wind product, placing orders now would result probably in delivery of around 6 to 9 months, because we're frankly at an early stage, and so we have to plan production in advance. And there's a little form there on the website that you can use to communicate with us. Apologize in advance because we're very busy and we have a small staff if we can't get back to you right away, but we will receive your email if you send it to them.
Okay. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. This was very interesting, and I hope that people will have a chance to learn more by going to www.leviathanenergy.com. Thanks again, Dr.
Thank you. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Goldstein on Gelt show with money maven Doug Goldstein. Doug's weekly radio show is heard around the world, but if you miss it, you can download the podcast at www.goldsteinongelt.com. The Goldstein on Gelt show gives you up-to-date financial ideas so you can get on the path to financial freedom. If you'd like your questions answered on the air or off, send Doug an email to doug@profile-financial.com. It's your money for your future, so join Doug every week to build your wealth on the Goldstein on Gelt show.